that's the thing is like, this is one of my prime examples in, self-care is catering. I mean, we're in 2023, catering your social media feed
so
that you are aware of what you're feeding yourself. So my social media feed reinforces mindfulness and self-care.
Yeah.
And thinking, not comparing myself to other people and going down this doom scrolling.
You dropped the bar. I know you realize that. What is your feed feeding you?
Yeah.
Right?
Oh,
you know
my
what I mean?
Write on down.
Come on. Can we get a move? What's going on, everybody? Welcome to The Technical Creative. I am your host, Dr. Nehemiah Mabry, and this is a podcast by STEMedia that centers on career development and growth for people in both technical and creative spaces. I'm excited today because our guest is Danielle Williams. She is a PhD student at UNC Chapel Hill, and she's going to be sharing with us how she discovered a need for more mindfulness in her academic career, her top 5 components of self-care, and if you want to learn what a body scan is, you got to stay tuned right here on The Technical Creative. We are here with Danielle Williams.
Hello.
The Mindful PhD.
Wow.
How you feeling?
I'm feeling good. I'm happy to be here.
I can tell, infinite gratitude on your shirt.
Grateful, yeah.
Always grateful. I'm very grateful to have you on the Technical Creative Podcast. We rebranded it a little while ago with the Technical Creative Podcast. We like to highlight people like yourself who live at the intersection of a lot of things, creative, technical, and all of that. But listen, just get right into it. Your handle, or at least your moniker, is the Mindful PhD?
Correct, yes.
What does that mean?
Oh, okay.
I know it's a lot.
It's a lot.
And we're going to unpack it, but give us the quick Cliff Notes definition. What does that mean?
So Cliff Notes version of the Mindful PhD is essentially, it's twofold. It's the Mindful PhD student, the Mindful PhD degree.
Okay.
And really implementing both the mindfulness-based stress reduction as well as being intentional about your PhD journey.
Got it.
And integrating peace and purpose throughout your studies.
Peace and purpose. I'm all about peace and purpose.
Yeah.
And for you specifically, it's in the world of science.
Yes. So I'm currently in a doctoral program at the University of North Carolina, Chapel Hill.
Okay.
In the Department of Microbiology and Immunology. And I'm coming up on my 4th year.
Yeah.
Starting this fall. And my thesis work in particular aims to understand HIV replication in the brain.
Yes, that was a big inhale right there.
Yeah, it's a lot.
4th year. Yeah, no. And you didn't just pop into a PhD program. And what I mean by that is you did a undergraduate degree in microbiology.
So my undergraduate degree was in cellular and molecular biology. And then I did a 2-year post-bac at the University of Washington, NIH prep post-bac. And both of those years were in virology of some sort.
Virology.
Yes.
So you were a virologist.
I am a virologist.
Yes. Studying HIV.
Correct.
Very important.
Yeah, very important.
All right, break it down for us because we need to know this a little bit before we go into back to the mindfulness stuff.
Yeah.
Like, what is your dissertation about? Give us the, if you had to explain it to a 5th grader version. I know you already kind of introduced it. And then, again, expound upon why is it so important?
Yeah, so my thesis work in particular looks at HIV that's able to replicate in the brain. We want to understand how it evolved to be able to do this because HIV typically infects T cells in the blood.
Okay.
And in a subset of individuals, you get replication of HIV in the brain, and it's sustained there. And so a lot of times this causes a range of neurological impairment, from mild all the way to HIV-associated dementia, HIV encephalitis. And so, I guess it's important because we want to help those individuals suffering from those diseases. And in order to do that, we have to understand the basic science behind why or how HIV is able to compartmentalize there and continuously replicate and do damage in the brain and the central nervous system.
I was today years old when I even realized that you can have HIV compartmentalized in the brain.
Yeah.
Man, so your work not only has to do with, the virus itself, but do you look at, I guess, neuroscience and things of that nature when it comes to studying this?
So my work primarily, you know how PhDs are very, very, very
specific,
down.
And then when you niche some more.
Yes,
right?
exactly.
Yeah.
So I look at the virus and I look at specific immune cells found in the brain, so macrophages and microglia. Yeah. I don't really work with the whole neuroscience, neurons, and all of that sort of dynamic. I just want to understand, because that's the only relevant cell type, like that's the only cell type HIV can infect in the brain.
Yeah.
I look specifically at those. So immunology-ish.
Immunology-ish coming to STEMedia this fall.
Yes, very scientific.
No, I dig it. And this is, listen, our audience is all about STEM. We have people in science, people in technology, engineering, math, all about this, right? And listen, I don't put it past you. I'm sure, I already know you're very intelligent, but were you like at, 8th grade, being like, yo, I'm going to be studying HIV in the brain, immunology-ish. Like, how did you even get into this? Like, what attracted you to this field?
What attracted me to this field? So I actually grew up with a chronically ill father. He had congestive heart failure, spent a lot of time in the hospital. They could never understand what completely was going on,
right?
Whether it was diet or, X, Y, and Z. And so that sort of got me interested in science and understanding, like, how can we understand mechanism, essentially? And this came not as, like, 5-6-year-old Danielle.
Yeah,
not as a year-old Danielle. Okay. Not as 8th grade Danielle. But along my path, I was like, I'm really interested in understanding this. And so in high school, I was introduced to scientific research. I'm from San Diego, California, and so we took a trip to Scripps Research Institute, and they were talking a lot about science and research and what you could do with it. And I was like, oh, I'm going to major in cellular and molecular biology, and I'm going to be a scientist. And so my freshman year, I was looking for research experiences. And so summer after my freshman year in college, I started research. And I was like, oh, I love this.
So you like the labs? You like the...
Yeah, I love the
There are no
lab.
Instructions. Just make sure you...
Exactly.
Okay.
And just understanding why things are happening and how they're happening. And so from there, I actually got an internship at Pfizer in cancer vaccines and immunotherapeutics. And so there they were using viral vectors. And so I was there for 2 years.
Real quick. Viral vectors?
Viral vectors. So basically viruses to deliver... viruses to deliver antigens to stimulate to stimulate the immune system.
Guys, this is deep.
So
this is deep. All right. Now, I'm not going to pretend like I just heard this, but I kind of did. Viral vectors is almost like a transportation system using a virus to bring good things. Because we already think about, like, virus, we think about
infections and disease.
Right. But viral vectors is like, how about we just hitch a ride with this virus to bring some helpful things to the body. Okay, so they were using viral vectors. Thank you for breaking it down.
No, I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I understand.
So from that, I was like, okay, if I can understand the virus better and do basic research on the virus, then we can better inform vaccines. And so when I came to do my PhD, when I decided I wanted to do my PhD, most of my research was centered around virology in whatever form. So that's what got me into virology.
Were you a straight A student in high school?
High school, yes.
Okay.
College, absolutely not.
A little different, right?
College was a different story.
Okay, got you. But you got through.
Yeah, got through. Made it through, barely.
Yeah, out in San Diego. And listen, I don't know how anybody can go to school in San Diego. Like, I went there.
And focus, right?
Come on, man. Like, I would be on the beach, like, every day.
No, that's a part of it. It's like when you're stressed, you just take a 15-minute drive to the beach.
Yes.
It's perfect.
Yeah.
Here, what do you guys do?
Listen, we go on a walk. I go on walks. We look at the hills, and the greenery, you know what I'm saying? But so, to each his own. You brought up a very good point. When you're stressed, you didn't say if you're stressed because that's a given.
Yeah,
you're going to experience
stressed as a student. When you're under chronic stress as a student, you got to find ways to cope.
For sure.
Stress relief, de-stress.
Man. So let's talk about it then, because you've said that you studied mindfulness for years, and that obviously stress and anxiety is a part of this rigorous journey, right? What was sort of your early indications or your sort of early awareness of how much of a problem or issue this is?
Yeah, so it started with my own journey, of course, and having firsthand experience with stress and chronic stress. And this sort of peaked in my postbac at the University of Washington. I was there for 2 years. The first year was under the mentorship of someone, and it wasn't a great fit. Like the mentor-mentee relationship was not really
You're being
working.
very politically correct right now. I remember, we're not going to get jump, but it wasn't hidden.
It wasn't hidden.
Yeah,
It was extremely stressful. And at that point, the I started having physical manifestations of the stress. So migraines, nauseating migraines, blacking out.
Wow.
After meetings with that mentor, I would break out in hives. And so I was like, ooh, this is not great.
But did you know, because I remember working on my PhD, having one time something due like by the morning, and it was late night. It wasn't looking like, at one point, all-nighters used to always get it done. Mm-hmm. But then we start realizing that not even all-nighters are sometimes. I had a moment, Danielle, where like, this never happened. My hands got numb. I've shared this on other podcasts before, but like my hands got numb.
Yeah.
I didn't know what was going on. I was just like, yo, what's like, did you know when you start blacking out, did you know that was related to stress?
So I knew it was stress, but it wasn't until I started therapy when my therapist was listening to me speak and he said, you need to change your environment.
Okay.
I thought it was just me. I was like, I need to do better. I need to be smarter. I need to work harder.
Yeah.
But it was the environment that contributed a lot to the stress. So I didn't make that connection. I knew it was stress, but I was like, I can do better by doing more.
Doing better by doing better. I can do better by doing
exactly.
better. Which is kind of like circular reasoning.
That was not the resolve. But it was the environment.
Got you. So this was happening, and you actually had a case of blacking out in the lab or something?
So I didn't know how I got home a lot of days.
Whoa.
Yeah, I would just wake up in my bed.
Whoa.
And I was like,
how did this happen?
Yeah. And I was like, hey, we need help. We need to get help. For real. And so that's when I started therapy.
You started therapy, became more aware of what was going on. Would you have described yourself leading up to that? Because obviously this is a point where you decide to take a pivot. But even before that, like, would you have said that you were an anxious person at all? Like, were you kind of an anxious person?
No. I think that this, like, I wasn't anxious. I wasn't, depressed. I think that just being in such a heightened state of stress, there was a lot of stressors. It wasn't just the research environment, but moving away from my hometown for the first time to a huge city where I didn't know anyone.
Yeah.
And then trying to hustle and get into grad school.
Yep.
In an NIH-funded program that pays you like pennies,
So you're trying to survive on top of like.
So I was also working another job because the cost of living in Seattle is astronomical.
But you come from Seattle though. Come on, like y'all kind of neck and neck, maybe.
San Diego and Seattle are, roughly
compared to
the
South, right? I got a different vantage point, but it was just crazy because the NIH fellowship didn't necessarily accommodate.
Yeah, and it's full time, right? So what are you supposed to do?
Right.
Anywho, and research is more than full time. We know that.
Right. More than full time. Absolutely.
So, all of those components together created the perfect storm for this like intense stress that I experienced and heightened anxiety and falling into depression. And so I was actually diagnosed with clinical depression and severe anxiety after sessions with my therapist.
Yeah.
And he said, if you don't change your environment, we're going to have to put you on medication because I was starting to have panic attacks.
Okay.
And so I'm a people person. I'm an extrovert. I like being in the crowds. Yeah. But I had taken a trip and I was out and I had a panic attack in the middle of a crowd. And that has never happened to me before.
Wow.
So I was like, okay, we got to get out of this lab environment into a new one. And so the second year, as a postbac, I was in a different lab under the mentorship of another individual, which was a much better fit.
Okay.
And I had the support that I needed.
Yeah. Did you take a break in between that? Like, did you say, I'm going to go home for a little bit?
No.
So you didn't take a break?
I had to get into grad school. I had a goal.
so even though all this was happening, I mean, and kudos to you, you got in therapy, you didn't continue to deal with it. But you were still goal-oriented. You still wanted to get grad school. And
it was all or nothing.
It was all or nothing.
Yeah.
So you became more mindful.
I did.
You became more mindful.
Yes.
So was sort of that, was that when the torch was passed to you as someone that, all right, I'm going to actually start studying this and learning this on my own?
Yeah, so I had an experience in undergrad. I took a Buddhist psychology class. And I also, at the time, had a best friend who introduced sort of the mindfulness meditation concept.
Yep.
So during that period of high stress, I tried to go back to some of those resources and reteach, relearn, and implement, but it just wasn't working.
Yeah.
And so when I got into therapy and he gave me tangible things to implement, like, having a routine, developing good habits to support overall wellness, like taking breaks and breathing and doing all of these things.
We're going to talk about some of those a little bit. But
I was like, okay, this is what I need is like, how can I implement this on a daily basis and not just sort of think about it more abstractly?
Yeah.
And so that's what really springboarded the process. And then I'll also add this piece, and that is when I got into this new lab, although the mentorship was great, the support was there, I still had a lot of self-doubt and fear and anxiety from the previous experience.
Your body still retained a lot.
Still remembered that. Yeah. And so I was like, okay, I'm starting to engage in self-sabotaging behaviors.
Okay.
And so if I want to be able to stay in this environment and get this PhD, I got to figure out how to operate. And so I narrowed it down to 3 things, right? And this is, upon years of reflection on this period as well. But 1, how do I manage stress? 2, how do I prioritize what's important? And then 3, what does my support system look like? And so in doing deep, intense reflection during this period, that's what prepared me for the PhD. And then that is what the mindful PhD sort of
The mindful PhD, yes. And you have, before us, this incredible book that you created, the Mindful PhD Journal. Yeah. Let's get a good look at that. Let's let the people see that really quick. There we go right there, the Mindful PhD Journal. A collection of mindfulness exercises to guide doctoral students on a journey of peace and purpose throughout their studies. Thank you so much for bringing this, by the way.
Absolutely.
We got the magnet here, micro moments of mindfulness. All right, let's talk about the journey to you saying, all right, I'm learning this. I have my own kind of situation. I'm waking up at home, not even know how I got home. This is not good.
Yeah.
You found the help you need. You change your, like you said, how you handle stress. How do you figure out what's important in your support system?
Yeah.
What took a shift to all right, I'm about to help other people? What inspired you to start creating this?
Yeah, so when I got to grad school, my first year, and I was explaining, my elaborate plan. Okay, my first year, I'm going to find support system and mentorship. That's what I'm going to prioritize.
Okay.
I'm going to figure out how I work best in this space. What in this city can I use as an outlet?
Okay.
My community and all of those things. And my peers did not have this same approach.
They were like, I'm just going to wing it.
Yeah, I was like, wait, what? You're prioritizing science? You're prioritizing the topic over the mentorship?
Oh, man.
What? So all of these things that I learned, I was like, no. Yeah. Let me see if I can package it up and possibly help my peers.
Okay.
And so...
So it's just your immediate peers, though. At first, you just want to help, people closer to you.
Exactly. Okay. And also through a means of where they have their own autonomy. And so... Not me saying this is what you should do, but thinking about what you feel you should do based on your goals and your values and who you want to become. And so I felt like a journal was fitting because you could ask people questions and they can come up with answers that are much more meaningful than just handing them a book of my own experience,
Gotcha.
In my opinion. And so I wrote these things down. I was like, I'm going to turn this into a journal. In addition to my desire to make money.
Yeah, listen, that entrepreneurial.
Create a side hustle.
I got you. That little entrepreneurial itch there.
Yeah, I was like, hey, maybe this could actually be something. And so I actually brought...
she's about to surprise us.
The first edition of the Mindful PhD.
That's like the prototype.
This is the prototype.
The prototype.
So I actually, look at this. I mean, this has been through a lot, and it's totally different.
Yeah. So you did this. All right. Listen. First of all, this is pretty dope. Right? I love it. But we already talked about how rigorous grad school is and everything. And this incredible young lady found time to produce a book.
Yeah.
So was this what was your process for this? Were you basically just keeping track of things you were doing and putting it down? How long did it take you?
So it took me it took me 6 months to come up with this.
Okay.
Just this little janky version.
It's not a janky. This got a nice little laminated type feel to it. A little extra sauce on there, but you know.
This prototype took me about 6 months to come up with.
Okay.
And it was sort of basically I did a lot of journaling. Okay. So I went back and found some of the things that helped me the most. And I compiled them and put them in here. So the personal development exercises, evaluating inner circle, who's closest to me, evaluating my habits, thinking about, what my values are and who I want to become. So there's exercises to help you think about what your core values are and the character traits you possess or the person you need to become to pursue.
Important stuff.
Yeah,
stuff
very
we do whenever
things.
You're trying to become more self-aware.
And then also reflection prompts related to, yourself, your experiences, and then also your PhD.
Yeah.
And so that's all that's in there. So I took this and I gave it to 2 individuals at UNC who worked in counseling and psychological services.
Okay.
Basically therapists for students.
For students, yeah.
And they were like, this is amazing. You should you should make this, add some peer-reviewed literature, really make this a thing. Because this could be a wonderful resource for students. It's everything that we talk about in our sessions. And they think it's safe because I was concerned that, it would be triggering.
Oh, okay.
But they said, no, it's great. It's amazing.
Yeah.
And so I went back, I got their feedback, I went back and I created this monster.
The thicker version,
yes.
right? Look at it, the thickness is different.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying? The come up is real, the glow up. All right, so here's the thing though, sometimes people are protective of their industry because you're studying virology. Mm-hmm. But this is kind of along therapy and things like that. And shout out to our former guests. We had a therapist on a couple episodes ago, and we're going to bring them back with their spouse. They run a whole practice, right? Mm-hmm. But, here you are, right, from a firsthand experience. And as you said, most people just kind of write their story. Mm-hmm. But you're like, I'm going to create a tool that's helpful for other people. Yeah. What gave Danielle the audacity to feel like
that I was qualified
to
do something like this?
This virologist is like, yo, I'm going to come out with a book about mindfulness. I admire it, by the way, but what gave you confidence? That is a valid question.
It's something that along this journey of creating such a resource and being in the limelight, I have thought about and reflected on. And I think that lived experiences are just as important as, things that we read in a textbook. And it's very real. And I think that, rule of thumb is if you're able to help yourself, you may be able to help someone else.
Absolutely. I heard a quote that said, you are most equipped to help people who are struggling with things that you found ways to manage overcoming, right?
Absolutely.
So here you are basically, in many ways, you're creating and passing back the solutions to the former Danielle, right? Absolutely. That didn't know this stuff. Mm-hmm. And guess what? There are a whole lot of former Danielles out there. Their name might be different than Danielle.
Yeah, a little different.
Right? You know what I mean? Maybe look a little different. You talked about this system, and I like to kind of think of this too as my first thing is seeing if I have a healthy sort of system and routine in place. Mm-hmm. What would you say are the top 5 things, right, that you did, right? We're not necessarily, we're not going to give a prescription to people, but when you came out of therapy and you began to change your routine and your system, what's sort of those top 5 things that you put in place?
Yeah, so one is exercise.
Boom.
Yeah.
And you be exercising too.
I be in the gym. You can't see the guns right now because I got these ruffles on. But
don't let the ruffles fool you. Don't let the ruffles fool you. She she packing diesel. She's diesel.
That's so funny. No, gym for sure.
Okay.
And then also fueling my body.
Okay. Nutrition?
Yes, nutrition.
Okay.
With healthy foods because it was a way of taking care of myself.
Yep.
That was something that I could afford to do.
Yeah,
right? I can eat healthy foods. And I understand that that's not everyone's situation, but it was a way that I could afford to take care of myself in that way.
Gotcha.
Journaling.
Journaling. Yes. Before you even knew you were writing a book, you were
journaling. I have journals from 2017, which is, that's when I started journaling more consistently in undergrad.
Okay.
And so going back to that, I'm like, wow, that is a different girl.
I know, that's right. That's
but that was something I got back to consistently after therapy is journaling. Mm-hmm. And then meditation.
Okay. Was that 5?
That was 4.
That was 4. Yeah. All right, okay. Meditation. But before you move from meditation.
Yes.
Define that for yourself. What does meditation look like for you?
So meditation for me looks like sitting. Uh-huh. So it's changed over the years. I started with guided meditations.
Okay.
Shout out to Sheila Marie's mixtape on Apple Music.
All right. Hey, Apple.
Really great resource.
Okay.
And then from there, I just progressed to sitting with some background music and allowing myself to just be. Yeah. In the silence. So I don't have any goals for meditation. Mm-hmm. I set in my head a 10-minute timer, but it goes more or less just depending on how I feel. And then I just sit and whatever thoughts arise, I let them arise. I, observe them.
You're not trying to because that's the hard thing for me. I'm like, all right, am I doing it right? Am I meditating right? Well, all right, what if I'm not supposed to be meditating like this? It's like, all right, I'm going to meditate. I'm going to stop meditating about meditating. I'm just going to... That messes up my meditation.
Yeah.
Okay.
No, I have no goals. I have no expectations. I just sit and breathe. And sometimes I'm able to focus on my breath. Other times I shift my attention to my heartbeat. So more of like a body scan. And then that just...
Body scan. I'm going to come back to that because I heard that term recently, and I don't really know the difference, but what's the fifth thing, right? You started off,
the fifth thing that I thought of was nature.
Nature. And the good thing about that is you can get in nature while you're exercising.
Yes, you can.
So that's 2 right there.
Not here in the summer, though.
Not here in the summer? Hold on now. San Diego girl over here.
I'm sorry. I just
trying to throw shade on our summer.
My 2 cents
oh, my goodness. Listen, I just want you to know there are some people in some parts of the country that would love our summer. It's just not San Diego
More
people.
power to them.
Okay. All right. Nature, exercise, nutrition, journaling, and meditation. Yeah. All right, meditation. All right. So you brought up this thing called body scan, right? And let me tell you what this is. This is a segment, right? Pass or fail. This is our pass. So I'm basically going to present to you. Maybe not a scenario in this case. Sometimes we do scenarios, but I'm just going to say a few statements. Okay. And you tell me pass, you agree, or fail, you disagree. All right? All right. All right, the first one. Academic environments are inherently stressful, and no amount of mindfulness can change that. Was that a good one? I don't know.
That's a great one.
Okay.
Pass.
It's a pass. So you agree that they're inherently stressful?
Yes.
So, right. All right. And no amount of mindfulness is going to change that they're stressful.
No.
So expound on that.
Yeah. So I'm in the thick of it.
Yes.
So I can relate to this.
Yes.
More than you know.
Right.
But I agree that there's no way to eliminate stress while in a PhD program. There's only ways to manage it.
Okay.
As best as you can. And sometimes, maybe managing it, you won't be able to manage it for a certain period of time because there's just so much going on and so many factors that may contribute to it. So I'm in a period right now where I'm like, okay, I'm trying to manage it. I'm implementing all these different things to try and get myself to a place where I feel less stress, and it's not working. So now I'm just going to leave for a week and see if that helps. But yeah, I mean, I don't think there's a way to eliminate stress.
Can't eliminate it, but you can manage it. And one way to manage it is getting the mindful PhD journal. Yeah. No, that's good. And the thing I like about it is that even though you obviously have this wonderful program and product, you keeping it real. You're like, you're going to be stressful. I'm just trying to help you manage it.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
Exactly. Right. I'm not trying to eliminate all the stress associated with a PhD. That is beyond me.
Okay.
Because there are factors that are out of our control that are going to be perceived as stressful.
Okay. Got you. Pass or fail. All right. And you talked about meditation and body scan. I'm going to definitely get your definition of that in a little bit. But practicing mindfulness too much can lead to complacency and reduced ambition. Pass or fail? I know I threw too much in there, but let's just say, is there a world? There is a world. I'm gonna say that statement so you can say pass or fail. Okay. There is a world where practicing mindfulness, meditation, and so on can lead to complacency and reduced ambition.
I'm gonna say fail.
Okay, explain.
Because when you practice mindfulness, it's not about like reducing your goals and ambitions. It's not about just relaxing and saying, I'm content with, within these 4 walls and I will strive for nothing else.
Yeah.
I think it actually brings a greater sense of awareness to what your purpose is and what drives you.
Yeah.
And gives you that mental clarity to decide what to do next.
Okay.
So I think so I'm actually reading a book right now that's talking about the benefits of meditation, but how it has its limits. So if you meditate for, the ideal amount of meditation per day is about 10 minutes.
Okay.
And so if you meditate for 30, 40, 50 minutes, an hour, you'll still see the benefits, but it's capped at a certain amount. And so depending on, your reasons for meditating, I forgot my train of thought.
But it's a limit, right?
It's a limit.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a limit. So if you're meditating for 9 hours a day and expecting,
I think you're sleeping at that point.
Yeah. Calling it meditation.
Right. Like, you're snoring. That's not meditation.
But I don't. Oh, and that's a hard question.
But you're. I think you're a good example of this, right? You became more mindful. You went to therapy. You learned the things you need to do, but you were still like, I got to get in grad school.
Oh, yeah.
Like, you still had your drive and ambition.
Yeah.
So in your practicing of it, you did not become more complacent.
No.
You didn't lose your ambition. So I think your example is really an answer to the fact that that is a fail. Although hustle culture would beg to differ. Hustle culture. You know what I mean?
I mean, yes, but it's just like you can be more efficient at your hustle if you meditate.
Boom. All right. I got you.
Yeah.
It's not either or. It's both and.
Yeah.
You could be, okay. Got you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, here's this. Check this out. There is a one-size-fits-all approach to mindfulness that can work for everyone. Pass or fail?
Fail.
Okay. Too easy fail. So not one-size-fits-all. So you mean to tell me that, like, and here's why I think that's an interesting one, and I want you to explain. But I do hear some of the common things.
Yeah.
Which would lead me to believe that it's sort of a one-size-fits-all. Why do you say it's a fail?
Well, there's a foundation,
Okay.
right? There's the definition of mindfulness and the components. So like attention, and attitude are the axioms that are usually
Attention,
used.
intention, and attitude. Yes. We got to get that on the screen.
Yeah. And so you can use that as a foundation for your practice, but it could look differently for each person.
Okay.
And so you can see these common themes, but what does that look like in your life and in your circumstances? It may be different.
Yeah. No, that's good. One more.
Okay.
One more, pass or fail. Okay. All right. You cannot achieve mindfulness without completely detaching yourself from digital devices.
Fail.
That's a fail. So you telling me I can walk around and be just as inundated with my phone and everything and still be mindful at the same time? Or does it? Okay, go ahead.
Yeah. So that's the thing is like, this is one of my prime examples in, self-care is catering. I mean, we're in 2023, catering your social media feed so that you are aware of what you're feeding yourself. So my social media feed reinforces mindfulness and self-care.
Yeah.
And thinking, not comparing myself to other people and going down this doom scrolling.
There we go. I'm about to say, like, you dropped the bar. I know you realize that. What is your feed feeding you?
Yeah.
Right? You know what I mean?
Write that one down.
Come on. Can we get a move? I'm saying, like, what is your feed feeding you?
Man.
So you do, you're scrolling, right? But you're reminding yourself. And so, like, I guess if you are seeing reminders like take a moment, gratitude, yes. But you're just like, oh man, that post on gratitude looked better than my post on gratitude.
Okay, that's something I have to prevent myself from doing.
Okay.
Is, following content creators that create mindfulness content.
Yeah. The joint is like, stop comparing. You're like, man, I posted that too.
Exactly. So there are limits, but also, I have a timer on my Instagram as well. Yeah. So I'm mindful of how much time I'm spending daily scrolling, whether it be productive or not. And then, like I said, catering your social media feed.
Do you go on social media fast sometimes? Like, do you just go a period of time?
Yeah, I do. And it's so refreshing.
Yeah.
But I also think that I have a purpose in being on social media and spreading the message there. So, I'll get back on, say my piece, and take a break.
Well, look, the Mindful PhD has evolved. Like, it's more than just a journal now.
It is.
Talk about what it has become since.
Yeah, so I had the opportunity to basically share my story, share the journal with some students at Duke for their retreat. And these students were biomedical PhD students. They're about to start their first year. Okay.
So UNC girl decided to help out the Duke students.
The Dukies.
I didn't say that. Listen, I went to NC State, so listen, we over here. We gonna have to cut that. Like, you gonna give me some hate comments. You gonna give me some hate comments. Hate in the comments. Listen, I didn't say it. I'm not at UNC Temple Hill who's doing it. The Mindful PhD over here is trying to be
I'm sorry.
No, you're good. Go ahead.
Yes, I had the opportunity to share my story with Duke students who were starting PhD programs in the fall.
Okay.
And I put together just some exercises that we could do. It was outdoors. So I brought whiteboards and we just sort of brainstormed, like, what is self-compassion? What does that look like? Like what's gratitude in the grand scheme of a PhD and why is that important?
Yeah.
And, thinking about acceptance and mindful, all of the things revolving around mindfulness. Okay. And activities and things that they can implement to help reduce stress. And so I was like, wow, I really like this. Like
the people part of it, the the live experience and community part.
And seeing people think about their own journey and what they like. And also bringing up things that are not normally discussed in an academic setting, like healthy coping mechanisms.
Right.
And the need for being able to reduce your stress.
Yeah.
Otherwise putting you at risk for anxiety and depression and other things. So that was the inception of sort of this workshop thing that is going on right now.
Workshop-ish.
Workshop-ish, just like immunology-ish.
Hey, talk your talk. So that was your first workshop.
That was my first workshop.
That you began to now offer other institutions and groups and organizations? Okay.
So now I host workshops covering a variety of topics.
Okay.
So I have like a workshop series, and then I have individual workshops. I just hosted a workshop series for UNC students in collaboration with the LCSW on board, who's a therapist for our PhD students. I mean, we covered self-compassion in your PhD, stress management and healthy coping, and then also your why matters. And I think it's a beautiful thing because we're taking concepts from therapy, but I have the experience through a PhD.
Yes.
And so we directly correlate or teach students or show students how these things can be implemented through case studies.
Okay. Well, here's the thing, though. Like, I feel like, there are always going to be people that are going to look at this, and I don't know why they do, but there are people who sometimes criticize and say, it's not really scientific. This is all very, you know what I mean? But you are hard sciences. Like, you're in hard science. Why should a person who's in, like, coding or, things that are very, like, cut and dry care about this other than just, I don't want to be blacking out, but, like, can you explain just why a person who has, I have one track of mindset even should think,
that is one of the foundations of the Infinite Gratitude brand and the Mindful
Infinite
PhD.
Gratitude, and that's so. How do they relate?
So
Infinite Gratitude.
The brand is Infinite Gratitude, and I did that because I didn't want to be tied to the Mindful PhD.
This is one program.
Yeah, this is one resource,
Gotcha.
And I realized that there are many things that could come of this, and so transitioning into workshops.
Yep.
Infinite Gratitude, transitioning into consulting, et cetera.
Gratitude. Okay, gotcha.
And so that's the foundation. The foundation is using peer-reviewed literature and evidence-based practices with clinical significance to back up these workshops that we're hosting. And so part of the rigor comes from that and establishing this precedence that this is something that will help.
Got you. And so that gives you a very specific audience, too, for people who may need a little bit more of the peer review studies. And a little bit more of the, research results that can prove in a scientific way that all of this stuff has merit.
Exactly. Yeah. And then to add an additional layer to that, this workshop series that we hosted, we wrote... we applied to be able to collect human subject data so that we could give pre and post surveys to see if our workshops are effective, if they're doing what we claim, they're supposed to do.
Right. Like it's not just based on vibes.
Right,
like,
exactly. How you feeling about this? Will someone pay me to do this?
Right,
what you
right.
think?
How do you know it works? Well, I'm telling you, you can feel it in the room.
No.
It's just like the way we just be, everybody leave, they go bow. You know what I'm saying?
And everything's great. No, absolutely not.
Yeah. You got to have some. I love it.
Yeah, we're collecting data to see if this is something that can be considered an intervention.
Got you. So if a person wanted to join your network, because I understand you have a network, you're starting to evolve.
Yes, we're starting to evolve.
So how will people?
The network.
Yeah, I'm going to school in Wyoming, or I'm going to school overseas. But I feel you because the other day I was feeling, my hands were numb. Right. So how can a person plug in?
So right now I'm on most of the social media platforms. So Instagram, LinkedIn, and Twitter. But coming soon. We do not have a timeline because grad school is crazy. Hopefully this fall.
Okay.
What I've been doing over the past year is collecting. So each workshop that I host, I have students write one kind thing to say to themselves. And I've been collecting these for the past year. I probably have over 100. And so part of the network is being able to leave a message and receive a message. when you're not feeling so great. So part of that network is signing up, and you get text messages to your phone when you need them on demand.
Come on now, on demand.
From other students who are in grad school who are
and that's
struggling.
self-compassion.
And that's self-compassion.
Okay.
So that's part of the network. So we're on social media. We are starting that service coming soon in the next few months.
Coming soon.
And of course, the Mindful PhD journal.
I love it. I love it. Well, here's the thing. Listen, this has been fantastic. I can already tell I'm just scratching the surface as it relates to mindfulness. I am definitely going to take this to heart. I mean, even this little micro moments of mindfulness, I'm gonna really go through this and use this, especially as an entrepreneur. I'm gonna tell you right now, I need it just like I needed it in grad school. But we like to kind of conclude with like some words of wisdom, right? And we ask this in a unique way. One, we would love for you to, sort of look in the camera and say, if you went back in time and were able to talk to your younger self, which you have a whole book on that. But let's just say you talked to yourself, a little before you started to realize this was an issue. What would you say in one sentence to yourself? And then what would you say to your future self? What would you say to your future self? Let's give them both. You can give them direct to camera.
Okay.
Floor is yours.
So to my past self, I would say, no one's judging you as hard as you're judging yourself. So feel free to ask questions, explore, and really get the most you can out of every environment that you are in. To my future self, I would say, to my future self.
That always gives people, it doesn't have to be in the same thing. Hold yourself accountable for something. Like, what would you say to encourage yourself? Like, it's anything like that.
Yeah. It's so funny. These are prompts in my journal.
Oh, listen, hey. We are practicing mindfulness right now.
Yes, we are. I guess I would say, stay encouraged. You never know who's going to be in the audience, who's in the room. No matter how many people are present, you're doing good work. And keep doing that work because it's extremely important, whether you have an impact on one person or 10 people or 100 people.
I think that's good. Your quote is, a better academia begins with you.
Yeah, begins with a better you.
Begins with a better you. A better academia begins with a better you. And this has been fantastic. I guess the only question I have left is, what's a body scan?
A body scan. So that's bringing awareness to different parts of your body. So if you can't focus on your breathing, you bring attention or awareness to, your feet.
Yeah, my fingers.
Fingers.
Oh, okay. I've done that before.
Yeah,
I just didn't know that. Okay, cool. I didn't want to forget that question.
Yeah.
That's why I had to circle back to it. Well, Danielle, this has been fantastic. Thank you for coming on the Technical Creative. Yeah. Man, I can see you're going to be a great, whatever you are. You want to be a professor? Is that what you want to be? Or you don't know?
Absolutely not.
Oh. All right, future Danielle, listen, we just recorded this, so she said no. But you have already planted the seeds for a better academia by creating a better you and by creating the Mindful PhD. So thank you for coming on.
Yeah, happy to be here. Thank you for having
me. Awesome.
Bye.